Hey.
Day 3 of Cosmoverse. How's everyone doing? Surviving? All right, love that. So yeah, good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining today's fireside chat here with Akash and Juno. My name is Adam Wozney. I head up community at Overclock Labs, the creator of Akash Network. I'm joined by Dimi, the co-founder of Juno Network. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about community, but that's kind of a broad subject, right? So we really want to kind of narrow our focus and give you guys something that you can take home with you. You know, we're going to really focus on what are the metrics we focus on in building our communities, what are some of the programs that we build that are beneficial to the communities at Juno and Akash, and then hopefully leave you guys with something you can take home and build your own communities. So before we get into any of that, I wanted to kind of introduce ourselves. So I'll kind of go first because I already got the mic. So again, my name is Adam. I got into crypto in late 2017 when I worked at Consensus, the Ethereum shop in Brooklyn. It was kind of an incubator for people that wanted to get their start in crypto back then. Focused on building community there, ran a couple different community programs, ambassador programs, helped with social, a bunch of different things. But I really got my start in community building about 10 years ago. I'm kind of dating myself, almost over a decade ago. Worked in Web 2 at a couple projects you guys might be familiar with. Wix, the website builder. Everyone's heard of Google, worked there for a little bit. But I actually got to see a kind of an interesting side of community building when I worked at IEX, which is a stock exchange in between working at Consensus and at Akash. Very interesting place. I'm not even going to spend any time talking about that, but if you have questions about how traditional finance builds community, it's kind of ugly. So we can talk about that after. But yeah, I've been at Akash for about a year and a half, focused on building community programs. We're doing a bunch of really cool stuff, which I'll kind of get into, but I want to hand it over to Dimi for an introduction.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I'm Dimi. I'm one of the founding community members of Juno. My background is mostly engineering. I started on Ethereum as a smart contract developer. And then in 2019, when Cosmos Hub launched, I started joining the Cosmos ecosystem, and I totally fell in love with it. And 1 year ago, Juno launched, and I helped doing that. So yeah.
Right on. So before we get into kind of our community chat, we're all attending Cosmoverse. You're all having a good time here, right? It's been awesome. This is honestly, like I said, I've been doing community building for a while, attend a lot of conferences, it's kind of built into community. And from my vantage point, this is probably one of the best crypto events I've been to ever in 5 years of attending conferences. So snaps to the organizers, Cryptocito and the gang. But yeah, I wanted to kind of get your just general thoughts, high level on Cosmoverse, how this one's been. You went to the first one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the difference, would you say, between the first one and this one?
So first difference is like 3 times bigger, and it's amazing because you really see how the Cosmos ecosystem is growing, and it's just amazing. And I'm loving it so much. The talks are great. Like my favorite one is the one from Sunny about mesh security, and of course about Jake for Juno. But yeah, it's great. A lot of innovation, some real talks, real products. It's just great, and we are witnessing the new era of proof-of-stake technology.
Right on. And then kind of talking specifically about Juno, what's Juno been up to throughout Cosmoverse? Have you hold talks or events, kind of partnered with any other kind of projects? What's it look like on from your perspective?
Yeah, as always, we are trying to improve the developer adoption of Juno. In fact, we have the Hack Lounge down there, and there is a lot of people hacking there. And there is also an open mic session where anybody can go there and show off their product or project they are building on Juno or also on the Cosmos in general. We are organizing some schedule today. If you want to go there, it will be great. And that's one thing. And then there was Jake's talk with this new innovative idea about Juno being like an incubator for Cosm chains and interoperable DAOs, which is like a total new concept, and I think it's very interesting. And of course, we are always open to talk and meeting a lot of different projects, and yeah, we can't wait to see more people building on Juno.
Very cool. Cool, so kind of getting into the meat of our fireside chat here today, I wanted to kind of kick off our conversation around community. with the annual survey that CMX puts out. So for those of you that aren't familiar with CMX, it's kind of the world's largest community of community professionals. And every year they put together a survey kind of figuring out, what community professionals are focused on within their given organizations, what's some of the feedback they're getting from their community, what's the teams look like, what are the metrics they track, a whole big, awesome survey I highly recommend you guys go and check out. And in their most recent one in 2022, 87% of company executives agree community is critical to their mission. It's pretty cool, would keep me employed like that. 79% of them believe community has a positive impact on their organization's objectives. Also really great for me and for you, I would say, that's awesome. However, only 10%, and this is important, only 10% of community professionals say they can financially quantify the value of their community. And I would argue that that's a problem, because if you're trying to grow and scale and support your community members, I believe that you do need to figure out a way to highlight to your team, to management, to the folks that are part of your company, the financial value of the community. Like, how is it delivering and helping the business grow? And I think it's important to think you need to add that to what is it that you're doing to also benefit the community. Because at the end of the day, it can't just be about, oh, well, the community has to benefit the business, everything else doesn't matter. It has to go hand in hand, and I don't think they have to be separate. So my question for you, Dimi, is how has Juno kind of gone about supporting and growing your community in tandem with driving kind of quantifiable business results?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Thank you.
So I think first we need to define what is the business objective of Juno. And I think it was defined at the Genesis time, right, when we announced the project. And it's basically having more people building on Juno, creating projects that are either on Juno or that works with Juno, and that brings back value to Juno stakers. And if you think about this, it is just growing the community, basically. And so there are two really strict, really connected things. Community and the business objective are like going within each other. So for Juno, the community is just fundamental. Like, without the community, we are not anything. So yeah, it's the same thing, basically.
Yeah, totally. And for us at Akash, I would say we kind of break it into two different kind of categories. There's community health metrics, and then there's kind of community business metrics. And on the health metric side, it's kind of the ones you're all familiar with. How many RSVPs are we getting to attend an event? How many of those attendees actually turn the key and convert to Akash users? But I like to use a thing that I also kind of got from CMX, which I highly recommend you guys all follow. They use a model called the SPACES model. And basically, it's just an acronym for support, product, acquisition, contribution, engagement, and success. And really, if you think about community, those are kind of the 6 things that you can focus on that are supportive of the community while being supportive of the business. And you can come up with like quantifiable business metrics to kind of coincide with that. The one example I'll give you is with engagement. If you focus on retention, you can focus on how many people are sticking around in your community, and through your community efforts, are you getting more people to stick around from your community efforts or without them? And if you can see, you can showcase that you're retaining more people in your community through your community efforts, the support, the education, the resources you're giving them. That's beneficial towards you as a community professional, because you can get more resources and do all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how we do it over at Akash, and I think it's kind of similar to how you guys are doing at Juno.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we don't have a real schedule plan for that. Right now we are launching like the marketing DAO and the community DAO. There are 2 sub-DAOs that will be launched from the main chain to some sets of smart contracts. And I think they will work in that direction. They will work on involving the community more and more. And I think we need to work on 2 sides. Like, we need either to update the community about what's going on, and at the same time collect feedbacks from them and understand what they really want. Because if we go all on the same direction, then we are doing a good job. And as a decentralized project, I think this is the only thing that really matters. Like, make your users happy and work together through
Right. I'm going to go off script a bit because you mentioned you're kind of building out a marketing DAO and a community DAO. How do you kind of foresee what those kind of two organizations will kind of be focused on? Is it pretty straightforward? You're going to get some people to join the community DAO from the community itself, or will you kind of look internally from like some of the members of the Juno team to kind of maybe help structure it, put it together? What does that kind of look like from pull out the crystal ball? What do you think that looks like?
Yeah, so I think a few months ago we shared a governance proposal that defined how sub-DAOs on Juno are launched, and I think it's very important to have community members inside these sub-DAOs and not directly like Juno core team or whatever. It's very important to have people from the community that work for the community. And so, yeah, the marketing sub-DAO is quite straightforward, right? They will manage the social media, they will manage community activities, events, all this kind of stuff. And the community DAO will work very close to the marketing DAO because they are really connected, just to as a like connection point from the community to the like brand identity of Juno. And yeah, they will be launched with a governance proposal, and there will be a smart contract. Everything will be transparent. If they want, they will have some budget to spend. They can ask to the community pool, and they will have their own managers with their own responsibilities. Yeah, and there is a lot of work to do, but yeah, it will happen quite soon.
No, I love it. It's the community driving forward the objectives of Juno. It's fantastic. So I kind of wanted to take a step back for a second, and everyone brought their time machines, right? Everyone got their time machines? Make sure it's gassed up. You need to make sure you have enough gas to get back, because if you don't get back, you're going to be stuck back when Juno launched. So I kind of want to talk about the beginning days of the Juno community, you know. How did Juno kind of go about getting their first few kind of community members? And what did it really look like for onboarding and engaging with those kind of early community members inside of Juno?
Yeah, so we need to take a look about what was Cosmos at that time. So Juno launched in October, but in reality we started growing the community much before, like at the beginning of 2021. Yeah. And at that time, we didn't have IBC live yet. There was no osmosis. And basically, there was only Cosmos Hub, and the only thing you can do is put your atom at stake. So there were not many like real usage of the Cosmos ecosystem. And so when we first pitched Juno Network to the community was just crazy about it. They loved the idea to have a smart contract platform where anybody can deploy anything. And so it was so easy, just you know, a Telegram group, a Twitter account, and the community flown on the groups. And of course, there was also the airdrop part that was fundamental because everybody loves airdrops.
I love airdrops.
Yeah. There is a T-shirt for that.
Is there?
Yeah.
If someone has an I Love Airdrops T-shirt, hold on to it for me. I'll take it.
And yeah, so it was super simple. Like the Cosmos community was there, and they were only waiting for something to do. And so we started working on that. And in October we launched. Osmosis launched before us, of course. And yeah, the ecosystem since then is growing like crazy. Like every few weeks, you see new projects onboarding Cosmos, new users, thousands or millions of IBC transfers every day. So it's crazy. Yeah, it's going great.
Yeah. Yeah, when I joined Akash, we already had pretty thriving community going, so it was just kind of establishing some new programs and kind of working with our community members that existed to kind of help them through their Akash journey. But for one example I'll give you is when I joined Consensus in 2017, I was maybe the 5th marketing team hire and the 2nd community team hire. So community existed, but it was just kind of all over the map doing disparate things, random things. So the first kind of step for growing the kind of Consensus community was figuring out like what's the purpose of our community? Like why do people want to join this? Like what do they get? What value do they get from being a part of this? So kind of defining that like a mission statement, if you will. And then from there, because we didn't really have any place to go and interact with our community members, there was no Discord, no Telegram. We had Twitter, but that wasn't really like kind of a community channel. It was more of like a billboard along the side of a highway. So it was kind of figuring out where they exist. So to do that, we had to figure out like what was the persona of our community members. So we pictured the perfect diamond like of a million different community members, what they look like, who they were. We defined it through persona building. And then once we kind of had an idea of who this person was, we start to look for other communities that existed and started to engage with them, kind of introducing ourselves in like nice ways. Oh, hi, we're Consensus, this is what we're doing. We have a vision, we have a mission statement now, we kind of know what we're trying to do. And slowly kind of like introducing people in a friendly, organic way, and then they kind of start to come over. And our first kind of big go of community building was just through meetups. We were just hosting meetups in New York. We were hosting meetups at different conferences that we were attending, and we kind of slowly built up our community that way. So that's kind of the way that I've approached it in the past, and it kind of sounds similar to you. I mean, you guys launched you launched the Juno, you launched the different social channels, you got people in, and you started engaging with them. Cool. So I kind of wanted to move on to the number of community members you guys have and kind of managing that, because it can get overwhelming sometimes, right? So at this point, do you know the rough estimate of like how many kind of members of the community there are inside of Juno?
Yeah, so it's very difficult to say actually. If you look at the social media, we have like, I think 80,000 people on Twitter and maybe another same amount on Telegram. But it's very difficult to measure how big is the community. What you can measure is like the feedbacks that you have from them and how much like involvement the community has with the new projects launching on Juno. And I think that part is doing quite great. Like every time a new project launches on Juno, like everybody apes into that. So it's very good. Also, if you look at the chart of the stakers on Juno, it's always growing. Like we grow like 30% every 2 months. So it's only growing, and but yeah, it's very difficult to measure like exactly how big is the community. If I'd say an estimation, but it's just like my kind of personal estimation, I think we are around maybe 60,000 to 80,000 stakers active in the ecosystem, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah. It can be difficult to measure community. And I think the number one measurement that I think most people go off of is just like size of social media channels, but that's really not an accurate measurement. Because generally speaking, when you look at any community of any size, 90% of people that are a part of it are just kind of flies on the wall. They're just kind of listening in. They're basically you guys right now listening to all of us. You're just flies on the wall. No, I'm just kidding. But it's about 90% or so are people just kind of flies on the wall, seeing what people are talking about, not really engaging. And then about 9% of those individuals that are part of the community they contribute once in a while. They maybe jump into a chat or like a live stream and kind of contribute a little bit. But then there's like the 1%ers that are highly active. And I see a few 1%ers that we have here on the Akash side, which I'll kind of cover in a second. But those are the ones that are like really engaged, they're active, they're contributing, they really see the positive benefit of the project you're working on or the community that you're building. And those are the individuals that like I like to focus the most of my attention on, because when somebody's willing to kind of dedicate and donate some of their time to kind of helping you grow the community, you're like, I want to support you however I can, just tell me what you need. So like at Akash, generally speaking, we have like 100,000 kind of community members, and again, I put that in quotes because it's kind of hard to estimate that. But on the community team itself, it's myself, we have the head of community, we have an events manager, and then we have a community engagement manager. But I think probably the third arm or the fourth arm of our community is our ambassador program. We call them Akash Insiders. And that's about 30 to 37 or so people around the world that are actively engaged in our Discord channels. They're actively supporting community with answering questions, contributing towards building technical documentation, video guides. And these are all individuals that are volunteering their time just to kind of help grow and support the Akash ecosystem. So snaps to all of you guys out there, a part of the Akash Insiders community. Cool. So
let me move forward. So I have a couple more questions. Looks like we have a little bit more time. So to recap, just so we're all on the same page, we kind of briefly discussed, business metrics that support scaling communities. We talked about how Juno found their first few kind of community members and how Juno manages and supports, your pretty large and substantial community. So one of my final kind of few questions here is I wanted to kind of dive into community growth because, we have a community, we've launched it, they're thriving, but we want to kind of continue to grow it and continue to support it. So from my experience, kind of to make your community sticky can be difficult sometimes. There's a lot of noise online, right? There's a lot of new crypto projects that draw people's attention. There's a lot of interesting things that has happened on the internet. I mean, you can just go and type in any word into Google and something funny will pop up. Actually, I don't know, sidebar, do you ever go into YouTube and just type like 3 or 4 random words and just see what videos come up and watch them?
No.
You should all do it. It's hilarious. You'll find some amazing things that way.
Really?
If you want a good laugh, yeah, just type in like, I don't know, light, dark, and I don't know, Mordor, and it'll probably be Lord of the Rings stuff, but try it out. It's pretty funny. So I found though, in kind of what I've done in community building is core to any good community program or community is personal growth and professional development. And if you can really provide support and resources and training and education around those 2 things, you're gonna have a great thriving community because that's why people join these things, right? Like that's why people want to be part of like a sports team or a crypto community or whatever it is that they're kind of, whatever it is that they're joining. So at Akash, I would say we kind of, or at Overclock, I should say, we kind of focus on those 2 pillars of community into really each and every decision that we're kind of making. So I kind of wanted to ask you, what kind of community programs does Juno maintain and support kind of to grow the community?
Yeah, so I think we need to think about Juno community. It's a big community, but we have 2 different targets. So we have the users and we have the developers. And these 2 different targets works in totally different ways. Like if you want to attract more developers and improve the development community, then you need to give them great tools, great documentation, great developers incentives programs like grant programs or bounties, all this kind of stuff that basically can make people work full time on your blockchain project and don't need to go to a 9-to-5 job for a Web 2.0 company. And that's one side, and the other side is all the users that are, of course, as important as the developers, because they need to use the apps on the platform. And I think to attract more users and also to make them stick to the ecosystem, basically you need they need to feel really involved in the community itself, and they need to feel like important for the project, because at the end we are in a decentralized world, so everyone's opinion should matter, and so involving every single member in both the governance decisions and in all the projects that are launching, and really caring about the community. I think that's like the first step. And the second step is probably giving them a lot of prizes. Like all the degens out there, they really want like APRs. So having also incentives for dApps building on Juno so they can get some kind of community sharing benefits. I think that works as well.
Yeah, we do kind of similar things as well. So we'll do kind of ad hoc incentivized rewards depending on, what new feature Akash is being built out. Like we ran a test net a few months back where a lot of the community members not only contributed to kind of QA testing a lot of these features, but a lot of the community members also reviewed submissions from the thousands of users, because we're a pretty small team. And reviewing 7,000, 10,000, however many it was submissions that we got, just me by myself, I would still be doing it today, and I probably still have half to go through. So kind of incentivizing people to kind of support different initiatives that we're doing. And I see it as a benefit to them as well, because they're learning more about Akash and they're becoming, it goes back to what I was saying, professional development. So you're incentivizing people and they're learning along the way. Like, that's key. I think you gotta kind of do those things. But in terms of kind of what we do, like, actively to kind of engage communities, or our community, we do, weekly Twitter spaces where Greg, our CEO, does very transparent and candid conversations. I think he's actually just wrapped one up right now. So sorry, Greg, I was talking over you. But go check those out. Those are every Wednesday. We also do Telegram AMAs with different projects. We've been focusing on validators on Akash for the past few months now. We'll also do, let me see, there's actually a couple of things. Oh, we do, of course, regular blog posts giving kind of community updates. A lot of it's highlighting what Greg was talking about in our Twitter spaces. So subscribe to the Akash newsletter for everyone paying attention out there. And then, of course, the insiders are kind of Akash ambassadors. We do weekly community calls with them where we kind of give exclusive access, I guess, to folks at Akash and at Overclock, talking about features that are being built out, asking for feedback, getting feedback from the community to kind of better serve them as well. But in the future, we do want to start building out, I know it's something you've built, as some hackathons. We want to start to do hackathons, and that's kind of a big focus.
Let's do it together.
I like this. We just shake on it? All right, you saw it. We're doing Juno Akash Hackathon. How about that? One of my colleagues, Boz, he's like, Adam, we can't do it right now. Just hold on. And then, of course, live streams. So yeah, looking to kind of keep the community engagement going on for people that join, hopefully helping people through the path. So we have about 2.5 minutes left, so I'm going to do final round of questions. This is kind of the lightning round. It's actually only one question. But I kind of want to talk about what the future holds for the Juno community. What do you think community members inside of Juno should look forward to in the future?
Jake, the first day of Cosmoverse, really shared a vision of Juno being like the home for interchain DAOs. So as a community member, you need to follow really what's going on at the DAO level. Yeah. Go on DAO and refresh the page to see all the DAOs that are coming. And I think that's fundamental. That's the bridge for new dApps to be built. And I think everything will pass through that. So really getting involved in the community, as everybody is already doing. I think that's all you need. Get involved in the community and stay updated. Yeah, we have a few things on the kind of Akash side. But whenever I kind of talk to some of our new insiders, our ambassador community, I kind of talk about the vision of what I want the Akash community to become, and I really want this to become a DAO where myself and anyone at Overclock or anyone in the community has a singular voice and kind of deciding on what the community is building, what they're focused on, all of those types of things. So the vision of the Akash community is really turning it into a DAO. But we're still early stages, still laying the framework, still kind of building it up. So right now it's really focused on onboarding new ambassadors into our Akash Insider program. So if you're interested in that, let me know, or just go to akash.network. We're building up an educations curriculum, working with some of our ambassador community that way. We're partnering with other communities. I guess Juno and Akash were doing a hackathon, so there's a great example. Just happened right before your very eyes. How about that? And then, of course, we do, one of the big things I really want to start doing is in-person meetup events in different parts of the world. Because like I mentioned, we're a pretty small team over at Overclock. And being able to kind of go and host meetups in different parts of the world is difficult. So finding individuals that are interested in hosting meetups, talking about crypto, teaching people about Akash, or even just the Cosmos space is something that I want to kind of really focus on. And supporting individuals to do that kind of, to build up their own education and their own kind of understanding of crypto and Cosmos. So that's kind of it. I don't really have any other questions. Anything you wanted to add before we wrap things up? Any ways for people to get a hold of you? No, just come to build on Juno. And yeah, as you said, local communities are very important. So if you are on the other side of the world and you want to build a community, just reach out to us. And I think both projects are happy to support also local communities. But yeah, it was great.
Cool. Yeah, and for Akash, just go to akash.network. You can see all the community activities that we're doing there. We have Discord, Telegram, all the usual suspects, so go check it out. But I want to thank you, Dimi, and thank all of you for joining today, and have a good last few hours of Cosmoverse.